Thank you very much for coming to talk to me about your book, Pomp and Circumstance. You were the centre of Pomp and Circumstance at the coronation as Lord President of the Council, holding the sword. Was this what made you interested in the subject, or was it something that's always been part of your political knapsack?
Well, it was actually that whole experience of being the late Queen's last and the King's first Lord President. An incredible time, a time of immense change and turmoil for the country, the start of the Truss administration. And actually the Accession Council, I was very nervous about doing that. It was a moment of potential peril.
You didn't seem nervous at all.
Thank
you seemed
Jacob.
utterly calm and in control.
No, I was terrified, I don't mind admitting. But the thing I was really worried about was it going badly wrong. Not the ceremony itself, but that the country wouldn't accept the new king. And of course, how daft of me, of course they did, and everything that followed was a tremendous tribute to Her late Majesty and of great comfort to him. But I saw in that incredible ancient ceremony how it and our traditions held the country together. It wasn't just the proclamation at St James's Palace, it was the wave of them that then spread around the country. It involved all of us, it reminded us who we were, and it galvanised support for the new king. And I thought, this is just incredible. And then I started to think about, actually, all of these things have been arrived at, and our amazing uncodified constitution, which is written down, but in about 400 different places, it's all held together by these rituals and these ceremonies and customs. And even our law is devised that way. And actually, the conclusion I came to is that these things are really important. I think we don't really recognise, we like them, but we don't really recognise how fundamental they are to our reliability, our dependability as a nation, and our ability to cope with change.
And that's one of the things that really interests me about the book, is you've got this wonderful section at the back listing all the events that go on through the year. But it's not really about cheese rolling and all these other fantastic things. It's about what defines us as a nation and how the symbols reflect our characteristic, and how therefore we have managed to do great things through 1,000 years of history, which we then remember in a symbolic way.
Yes, and there are things that really link amazing national events like the coronation to the local events. We celebrate across the country monarchy. We have pearly kings and queens and goose queens and may queens. We pillory politicians, I'm afraid, Jacob. The number of events that have involved dunking, custard pieing, or weighing your local mayor or local elected official are enormous.
That's High Wycombe, isn't it, where they weigh the mayor?
Yes, yes, and very nervous day for the MP concerned. But we also note that they celebrate service and duty. They celebrate sacrifice. They are based around, I would say, the values of the nation. And most of them, in fact, I think all of them, are funded not by the public sector. It's not local authority grants doing this. It's local traders. And I just think that it's so emblematic of who we are as a people. And they're on the rise, particularly since COVID. People are reviving these traditions.
It was really interesting, I found as a constituency MP, that it was always a small number of people in a local community who kept these things going, who had the real drive to do it. And then the whole of the rest of the community came along and had a wonderful time. And it brought a village, a town together once a year. But you need those few people who have the energy to do it.
Yes, and but in some places it's quite large numbers of people. I mean, the bonfire societies of Lewes
yes.
are an army.
Yes.
I mean, they're amazing. But I think more people are becoming interested in this, and even places. I mean, I used to represent Portsmouth, very, very urban area. It's now got community orchards. It's having wassailing services, and there's something that's almost innate in ourselves, that we want to bring people together. We want to feel attached to nature, the land, the sea, and we want to celebrate and remind ourselves about the things that are important to us, our families, and where we're from.
And we do create new ceremonies. You have a wonderful story about the creation of HMS Pickle Day. Is that, have I got it right?
Yes, and I thought I knew everything about the Navy, and I hadn't realised the pragmatic decisions that arrived at Pickle Day. I thought it was a very old celebration for non-commissioned ranks to commemorate the Battle of Trafalgar. And it was obviously the vessel that brought Nelson's body back.
Was it really called HMS Pickle?
It was.
And so he was pickled in a thing of brandy.
Absolutely.
And in HMS Pickle.
Absolutely.
I never knew that.
And it was a pragmatic decision by the guy running Portsmouth Naval Base that someone asked, could the non-commissioned ranks be involved in the Trafalgar celebration? He thought, well, actually, logistically, that's not going to work. So let's create another day for them. But they felt the need to do that. They felt the need to include people, and that's why we have Pickle Night.
And one of the things you say, and it's still really on Nelson, is about failure. And it's about how we manage to cope with failure, and that you point out that Nelson was seasick, he had scurvy and dysentery, he got left on the beach between the wars when he was a young officer. All sorts of terrible things happened to him. But we ultimately remember the success, and it's celebrating failure in a funny sort of way with Dunkirk and things like that, but recognising that's part of the route to success.
It is, and if you talk to any businessman, a successful business person, and you ask them how many companies they set up before the one that thrived, they'll probably tell you several. It's part of the way of life for so many different sectors. In politics or the civil service, it's not. You can't fail. And I think that just being focused on the end result that you're trying to achieve and not being deterred by failure is incredibly important. All public success is based on private failure. And I think this is a lesson for the country because, once again, I think people are writing us off. In the beginning of the book, we've got a great big list of all the times in history when the Brits have been written off, and they've been wrong to do so.
But this is one of the inspirations of the book, that you're quite clear that we shouldn't write ourselves off. You point out things that I had no idea about, how most of the most popular pop songs are British, and I did know that a lot of the authors were British and so on, that actually, even though we are 65, 70 million people, we are the fifth biggest economy in the world, we still are number one in huge numbers of areas.
Absolutely, and largest foreign investor into the US. I mean, the list is immense. I think this is very important to point these things out because people are looking at where they see government failing, the small boats issue being totemic for that, and they think that everything doesn't work, that we're not a capable nation, and they want us to be capable. We quote the US philosopher Richard Rorty that said that national pride is to nations what self-belief is to individuals. It's a necessary condition for improvement. And so I think it is important to remind us all what we are capable of, the incredible things that we have, the incredible talent that we have here, the incredible opportunities, and this reputation for being dependable, reliable, trustworthy. And those things, their stock is going to rise because the world is very chaotic and unreliable. And I think this is an era in which Britain could do really well.
And it is very powerful, as we've seen with the relationship between the King and the President of the United States, that has been very dependent upon our traditions and making them work for President Trump in a modern age. So the carriage ride wasn't along the Mall because of security reasons, it was through Windsor Great Park. But you do tradition in a new way so that you still have its effect, but you do it in a way that works.
Yes, and you can see this in more regular modern life as well. I mean, a great example actually is the London taxi. You have to trust the taxi driver and the vehicle when you get into a taxi. And we've got modern cabs, the electric vehicles, and got USB ports and all those sorts of things. But they're still required to turn in the original turning circle that the old cabs used to, the hansom cabs. And you'll be very comforted by this, Jacob.
I can, I've done it. I know what you're going to say.
You can get in the back.
You can indeed.
With a top hat on.
You can keep your top hat on comfortably in the back.
And sit in the back of the cab.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
This is a lesson. If we want to see the kind of transformational politics that I think the country wants to see from its government. There's a lesson in here for how you do things.
Build on our history, don't ignore it. There was one question I was going to ask you, actually two more really. One is, at what point does tradition become Ruritania? Are there ever occasions when you see a ceremony and you think, oh my goodness, this is just going a bit too far?
No, I don't think so. I mean, in terms of the local traditions and customs, the madder the better, as far as they're concerned. And I think this points to another element, that the absurd and our sense of humour. It's the only thing we take really seriously in this country. So I think that is fine. But I think we do adapt these traditions. They do modernise. There are some traditions that have fallen by the wayside, and I think that's a jolly good thing. Lots involving animal cruelty, unfortunately.
Right.
Flounder squelching and harrying wrens are
They still
gladly
have
a thing of the
They
past.
still have the eel parade in Ely, but I
They
assume
do,
that's
but
not
no
too many.
eels are harmed. I think
not too
some are
many.
consumed, but no. So we leave things that aren't relevant by the wayside. But I would say even ceremonies like the coronation, there's nothing in that which is not relevant to today.
The sacramental element of the coronation, the anointing of the king, is, I think, of fundamental importance to who we are as a nation, and it is of the greatest antiquity. You can easily trace it back to St Dunstan, but you can actually, it was 973, you can trace it back even further. Yes. And so, yes, I think it's very important we maintain that tradition. I loved your ending, and before we get on to the list of traditions, where you look at and you summarise what the nation is about. I wonder if you might like to just do that briefly and what it made you feel when you finished the book about what the country stands for.
Well, I finished the book by saying that, I started the book by saying I love my country. It's one of the reasons why I went into politics. But having researched all of these traditions and learned about the people behind them, and particularly the local customs, I love it even more. We are an immensely dependable nation. Our rule book and how we organise ourselves and make decisions has been stress tested through 1,000 years. If you compare us to what is happening in the United States at the moment, which is this sort of creative chaos, institution bashing, if you try to do that here, it won't work. And we start each chapter with a quote from the wonderful film, 1944 film, This Happy Breed, and the central characters in there, one of which is Frank Gibbons. And he says, what works in most countries won't work in this one. We've got our own way of doing things. It may be a bit slow and dull, but it suits us all right, and it always will. And that, to me, is the key for us being a successful and capable nation. Don't throw everything up in the air. Pursue and create habits that create excellence. And that's how you'll deliver for the people of this country who understand duty and service, don't take themselves too seriously, but want us to be a great nation. And that's what I think we are as people.
Thank you very much. I would strongly recommend this book to all my viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.